Welcome to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we translate sky math into plain American English and keep the incense smoke out of your critical thinking. Today's program is devoted to Sagittarius and, yes, the cosmos is calling your bluff, which means the universe has stopped sending you inspirational napkin quotes and started holding up a mirror big enough to show the parts you conveniently edit out. Consider this your seasoned researcher at the mic, equal parts astrologer, social psychologist, novelist, and a slightly impish student of Buddhist common sense, inviting you to sit still for 5 honest minutes and listen to what October 19, 2025 is really asking of you, the roaming philosopher with a carry-on, the optimist who can make a detour look like a pilgrimage. Have been feeling that itch beneath your enthusiasm, a whisper that something has to give. And despite your talent for juggling plans, passions, people, and your last 3 brain cells like a fire dancer with discount insurance. The truth is simple, your impatience isn't a defect, it's data, a dashboard light blinking because Jupiter is amplifying your 9th house appetite for truth and distance, while Saturn, the adult in the room with a clipboard, is standing in your routines muttering, "Prove it." Translation without the cosmic poetry. Your vision is huge and credible, but the follow-through needs guardrails, and before you sprint toward the next horizon like an inspirational poster in shoes, breathe, pause, look at the calendar you fear and the silence you avoid, then sort your projects into 2 piles, the ones that feed the fire and the ones that keep you conveniently busy so you don't have to hear what your intuition has been repeating with monk-like patience. The Sagittarius chosen ones, the archers who finally learned that discipline is simply freedom wearing a watch, will use this week to prune without apology, to retire charming distractions and upgrade ambition from fantasy to architecture, in love. The theme is freedom with devotion rather than freedom instead of devotion, which means your partner, or the person about to become one, will show care in practical ways that look suspiciously like help. And your task is to accept the steadiness you secretly crave without picking a fight with it for being insufficiently dramatic. If single, expect a meeting that feels planned by something with better logistics than your group chat, the kind of encounter that quiets your internal scanning for exits because the conversation isn't a performance, it's a landing. Professionally, watch for a mentor or ally who sees your scope and refuses to be dazzled by it. The King of Wands type who opens a door and then expects you to walk through it prepared, not breathless, because 2025 rewards competence dressed as audacity, not audacity alone. Financially, yes, there are opportunities, but optimism should never sign contracts realism has to renegotiate, so document everything, build systems, and let generosity be intentional rather than reflexive. On the body and mind front, we're not doing martyrdom by productivity anymore. Hydration is not a belief system and sleep isn't a character flaw, so pick a rhythm you can live with. Meditation if you're brave, a daily walk if you're honest, and remember the Buddhist footnote that all phenomena arise and pass, including the urge to fix your life at 3 a.m. with a 12-step spreadsheet. Socially, your voice matters more than your volume, and this week asks you to debate without dominance, to teach without preaching, to build the choir instead of auditioning soloists, knowing some old connections will return for closure and others to test your boundaries, both of which can be handled with that Sagittarius humor that turns chaos into curriculum. Yes, envy may hover at the edges of your brightening, but that's not your homework. Your job is to keep your frequency clean by doing excellent work and letting results speak the language critics pretend they don't understand. Spiritually, trade dogma for practice, let faith be measurable in kindness. Love, career, and health, the 3 planets that never stop orbiting our attention have lined up for you, Sagittarius, and each one is asking for a different kind of maturity. Let's begin with love, because the cosmos seems determined to turn your romantic life into an emotional laboratory. For those already paired, something remarkable is happening. Your partner is slowly catching up to your emotional vocabulary. They are not suddenly quoting Rumi or remembering the moon phases, instead, they are showing affection in practical, almost adorably awkward ways, helping with errands, offering advice, or fixing that one thing you swore you'd get around to. It's not poetry, but it's love translated through the language of doing. The challenge, of course, is to recognize devotion when it's disguised as an oil change or an act of patience. You, Sagittarius, who can romanticize the sunrise and overanalyze a text message, are learning that stability, consistency, and presence are sometimes sexier than chaos. Let them show love imperfectly, because imperfection is at least honest. For the single adventurers, this is the moment when your trademark independence meets its equal. Someone is entering your orbit, not with fireworks or drama, but with a quiet confidence that disarms you. You'll recognize them by the calm that enters your chest where anxiety usually lives. You will not need to rehearse your charm or defend your freedom. This person does not want to own you, they want to see you. And for once, you might find that terrifying. The connection feels fated because it is. The universe, which occasionally acts like a mischievous playwright, has scripted a coincidence between caffeine and curiosity, perhaps a random introduction, a shared conversation, an encounter that feels like déjà vu wearing new clothes. The lesson here isn't about seduction, it's about authenticity. You can't flirt your way through this one using metaphors about freedom and cosmic destiny. The Year of Triumph 2025 doesn't reward charm, it rewards presence. To show up as you are, unedited, is the bravest act of love you'll perform all year. Now, let's wander to the territory of ambition, the place where Sagittarians often confuse inspiration with direction. For too long, you've been the visionary pitching ideas to people who respond like beige wallpaper. You've been throwing sparks at damp wood. That changes now. The cards, and even the data if you prefer spreadsheets to spirituality, reveal the arrival of a mentor, a King of Wands archetype who sees your potential clearly. This could be a boss, a teacher, or a kindred soul whose leadership feels both empowering and slightly intimidating. They don't flatter you, they challenge you. This alliance opens doors you didn't know existed, but it comes with a price tag called humility. You'll be tempted to prove how fast and brilliant you are. Don't match their pace. Absorb what they know. Let them refine you the way fire refines gold. In this chapter of your life, wisdom is the new currency, and you, my fiery prodigy, are about to get very rich indeed. Financially, the universe is tossing coins at your feet, but Jupiter, your planetary ruler and the cosmic Santa Claus of optimism, has a sense of humor. It offers abundance and then watches to see if you'll blow it all on a symbolic road trip to find yourself. Bonuses, side ventures, and digital opportunities will multiply if you act strategically. Keep receipts. Pay taxes. Let realism handle the paperwork optimism keeps misplacing. In the Year of Triumph, wealth will flow where discipline guides it, not where impulse drives it. And then there's your health, the body that has been politely requesting your attention while you chase every abstract mission of the soul. You've been living like rest is optional and caffeine is a religion. The universe heard you joke about sleeping when you're dead and decided to test your sincerity by sending a migraine. Consider this divine intervention with a side of irony. Your body is no longer willing to be treated as background equipment, it is the vessel, the stage, and the microphone for your cosmic message. Hydration is not a belief system. Sleep is not a luxury. If you've started to eat better, move more, or meditate without immediately tweeting about it, keep going. Healing isn't a performance, and real progress doesn't come with hashtags. Energetically, you're oscillating between bursts of brilliance and stretches of flatline fatigue, which is perfectly normal for an archer drawing their next arrow. The secret is rhythm, not perfection. You don't need a personal trainer or a shaman, you need a consistent routine that reminds your nervous system it's allowed to rest. Try a walking meditation, a morning stretch, a moment of stillness before you dive into the digital noise. Forget the crystals TikTok recommends, stillness will recalibrate your frequency faster than any imported stone. The Buddhist in me would add this: the body is the first temple and the last teacher. It records every compromise you make between truth and convenience. Treat it like a partner, not a vehicle. You wouldn't run a beloved horse into exhaustion and then expect it to carry you to enlightenment, so stop doing that to yourself. The path to spiritual awareness isn't paved with self-neglect disguised as productivity. If there's one through line in all of this: love, career, health, it's presence. Whether it's your partner handing you love disguised as loyalty, a mentor reminding you to match wisdom with effort, or your own body asking to be heard, the universe keeps repeating the same word: stay. Stay long enough to feel the moment instead of narrating it. Stay humble enough to learn. Stay kind enough to rest. Because this week, the cosmos isn't offering you fortune cookies, it's handing you a mirror and daring you to recognize yourself. And if you can meet that reflection without flinching, Sagittarius, you'll discover that devotion, mastery, and vitality are all the same discipline, the art of being fully alive in your own story. Community and ideals are not abstract words for Sagittarius, they're the engine room of your philosophy. You were born under a sign that rules belief, broadcasting, and the big picture, which is a polite way of saying that when you open your mouth, the world tends to get a sermon whether it asked for one or not. Recently, though, you've been doubting your influence, wondering if anyone is actually listening or if you've been performing monologues to a distracted audience scrolling through their own existential feeds. They are listening, Sagittarius, they're just slower to admit it because truth takes time to digest, and you have a habit of serving it raw. Your task now is to share your truth with grace, not volume. You've mastered conviction, but now you must master tone. Reconnect with people who challenge you intellectually, the ones who ask uncomfortable questions, who force you to define your values rather than repeat them. Debate, don't dominate. You're not meant to preach to the choir, you're meant to build the choir, one skeptical voice at a time. Some old friendships may resurface, one to reconcile, another to remind you why boundaries exist. Accept both with humor. Not everyone is meant to stay on your tour bus, some were just there to show you the route. Your emotional intelligence is entering a new syllabus. You've already mastered optimism, that faith in the future instinct that lets you make jokes during an apocalypse, but the universe now wants you to learn stillness. Not every emotion requires an expedition. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to stay put and let discomfort finish its sentence without interrupting it with a vacation or a project. If anxiety spikes this week, remember, anxiety is often excitement without direction. Ground it. Journal, cook, clean your digital files, anything that converts energy into form. Transformation isn't a lightning bolt, it's repetition, the quiet act of showing up until chaos loses interest. The chosen ones, those Sagittarians who have learned to pair intuition with patience, understand this. Real growth is not glamorous, it's administrative. Still, as your light expands, so do the shadows around it. Jealous eyes are always part of the scenery when Sagittarius starts to glow. You might notice colleagues downplaying your success or friends growing oddly quiet when you share good news. Don't take it personally. Envy is often admiration that never learned to speak politely. Insecure people treat another person's success as a mirror, and mirrors are cruel when you haven't done your own work. Your job isn't to fix their reflection. Protect your optimism, but not by shrinking, by grounding. Remember that confidence doesn't require an audience. If people misinterpret your brightness as arrogance, that's their homework, not yours. Carry a stone if you must, but humor is the better shield. A laugh deflects energy faster than any crystal on ETSE ever could. Then there's the deeper current beneath all of this, your spiritual practice, your ongoing PhD in meaning. This cycle asks you to redefine what belief means. Maybe the metaphors that once inspired you have started to feel small. Good. That's how evolution announces itself. Growth means the universe trusts you with a bigger syllabus. Whether you call it God, Dharma, physics, or just the algorithm, the core teaching remains the same: everything that arises, passes. The Buddhists were right about impermanence, but what they forgot to mention is that humans keep trying to turn enlightenment into a subscription plan. Stop chasing awakening like it's Wi-Fi. Live it. Practice compassion not as a hobby but as calibration. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every instance where you resist the urge to be right, is enlightenment in action. The Year of Triumph 2025 isn't about perfection, it's about integration. The Sagittarius path this year is not about ascending a mountain, it's about realizing that the mountain and the village are the same place viewed from different altitudes. Spirituality and practicality, laughter and reverence, paycheck and purpose, they belong to one syllabus called being human while knowing better. That's the divine joke of existence. You study transcendence and end up rediscovering maintenance. Sweep your floor like it's a ritual. Answer emails like you're building karma. The sacred hides in errands because that's where attention lives. You've always been a philosopher with wanderlust, but maturity now asks for depth over distance. Your voice matters, but so does your silence. Your optimism inspires, but so does your restraint. The people around you don't need another sermon on freedom, they need to see what liberated living looks like. That's your real influence, Sagittarius, not the words you broadcast, but the way you embody contradiction, cheerful yet serious, bold yet self-aware, adventurous yet loyal. In this new cycle, success will not be measured by applause but by alignment. When your actions match your ideals, when your heart and humor coexist, when you speak with clarity rather than noise, you become the mentor you once searched for. Your community will shift around you, old bonds loosening, new ones forming. Some will misunderstand your growth, a few will celebrate it. The rest will catch up eventually, and even if they don't, you'll keep walking with that mix of faith and sarcasm that makes you unmistakably Sagittarius. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to stay real, keep laughing, and keep telling the truth loud enough to inspire, quiet enough to listen. Practical manifestation, Sagittarius, is not about chanting affirmations under the moon while your bills stare at you from the counter. It's about translating philosophy into muscle memory, turning ideals into habits. Let's start with the first rule: schedule joy. If it's not on your calendar, it's a hallucination. You're excellent at planning the next big leap but terrible at planning contentment. Joy is not an accident, it's a discipline. Block it out like a meeting with your higher self, and treat it with the same respect you'd give a tax audit. Second, stop using guilt as rocket fuel. Guilt burns hot and fast but leaves you stranded in the middle of nowhere with smoke in your eyes. Faith, on the other hand, cooks slow and steady. The universe doesn't reward martyrs, it rewards people who believe enough to pace themselves. Third, ask for help. Even archers need someone to fetch the arrows. The myth of self-sufficiency has wasted more potential than laziness ever could. You don't lose credibility by collaborating, you lose it by pretending you're fine when you're clearly juggling too many flaming torches. Fourth, stop multitasking emotions. You can't heal and perform at the same time. If you're hurting, pause the performance. If you're thriving, stop looking for a new wound to fix. And fifth, celebrate micro wins. The universe isn't grading your life like a resume, it's measuring gratitude. Every tiny success, an honest conversation, a small payment, a full night's sleep is a cosmic vote of confidence that you're doing just fine. When it comes to compatibility, the stars give you quite the guest list. With Aries, you form an unstoppable duo, caffeine and ambition with legs. Together, you can change the world or at least tire it out, but remember to rest before one of you combusts. With Leo, it's fireworks and philosophy. You two could talk for hours about courage, creativity, and who gets to control the playlist. They'll remind you that joy isn't a mood, it's an art form. With Gemini, it's mental ping pong, exhilarating, hilarious, occasionally exhausting. You inspire each other's curiosity until someone forgets who asked the original question. To keep it healthy, balance banter with silence. Sometimes meaning hides between sentences, not inside them. After decades of studying astrological cycles, I can say one thing with conviction: Sagittarius energy is historically contagious. Every major leap in human progress, the discovery, the innovation, the revolution of thought seems to arrive when your sign lights the sky. You're the philosophers who turn chaos into curriculum, the explorers who make the unknown sound like an adventure brochure. Yet right now, the world doesn't need more cynics, it needs informed optimists. That's you, the rare breed of dreamer who can quote data and poetry in the same breath. But optimism isn't naivete, it's disciplined hope. It's the willingness to see possibility without denying risk. Keep your standards high, your expectations flexible, and your sarcasm refined. A Sagittarius without humor is like a bow without tension, pretty, but useless. Now, let's talk about money, the most practical mirror for your spiritual maturity. Your financial forecast is bright, but brightness without moderation blinds. Don't confuse generosity with obligation. Giving out of guilt is just emotional bookkeeping. Invest in learning before luxury. Jupiter, your ruling planet, rewards curiosity far more than consumption. A course, a certification, or even an honest conversation with a mentor could multiply your income faster than another shiny gadget or trip justified as research. You've got natural luck, but luck works best when competence shows up on time. And if extra cash flows in, and it will, consider giving back quietly. Karma has a longer memory than accountants. The cosmic economy runs on intention. Generosity grounded in wisdom compounds faster than any interest rate. Underneath all this practical advice runs a subtler truth. Manifestation isn't about bending reality to your will, it's about aligning your will with reality. The Buddhist in me would say it like this: you can't push the river, but you can learn to swim without panicking. The novelist in me would add that the story always rewards the character who learns balance before brilliance. Sagittarius, you are wired for expansion, but expansion without integration becomes chaos wearing ambition's clothes. The trick is to build steadily, to let humor coexist with discipline, to chase meaning as fiercely as you chase milestones. Your purpose is not to impress the universe, it's to collaborate with it. So schedule joy, refuse guilt, ask for help, stop multitasking your heart, and celebrate the tiny victories that make life hum. Rest between adventures, learn before you spend, laugh at your own excesses, and remember that faith not force turns potential into permanence. This is the quiet architecture of success, practical, repeatable, and deeply human. The cosmos may write the blueprint, but you, Sagittarius, are the builder who turns stardust into structure and wisdom into wealth. Sagittarius, humor has always been your unofficial religion. You're the philosopher who can't help laughing at the cosmic absurdity of it all, the sign that survives heartbreak with a smirk and turns existential despair into a well-delivered punchline. You heal not by escaping pain, but by teasing it until it gives up. So when life unravels this season, and it will, gloriously, like a badly wrapped gift, remember that the universe isn't punishing you. It's pranking you. It's your oldest friend with a wicked sense of humor, throwing banana peels on your path to make sure you still know how to laugh at gravity. You didn't lose your way, you stumbled into a plot twist. Tell your anxiety, thanks for the feedback, but I'm still doing it. Then go do it boldly, beautifully, imperfectly. Courage is rarely graceful, but it's always necessary. Besides, perfection is just insecurity in formal wear. Now let's get philosophical, because every Sagittarius eventually does. Imagine the cosmos as an endless conversation, every decision you make a sentence, every belief a punctuation mark. You've been using too many ellipses lately, hesitating to finish your sentences, leaving everything open-ended as if commitment were a trap instead of a choice. This week, end a few with periods. Claim completion. Finish the project, send the message, walk away from what's already taught you everything it could. Closure isn't dramatic, it's dignified. And the moment you stop auditioning for destiny and start collaborating with it, you'll realize you were never being tested. You were being edited. The chosen ones, those rare Sagittarians who finally learn that freedom and accountability are not opposites, recognize this moment as liberation. Destiny isn't a spotlight waiting for you to perform under it, it's a co-author waiting for you to pick up the pen. Here's your affirmation for the week, and yes, I want you to write it somewhere you'll see before coffee. My freedom is sacred, my focus is power, my joy is non-negotiable. It's not a mantra for the faint-hearted. It's a contract between your potential and your willpower. The universe loves a Sagittarius who means what they declare, because sincerity vibrates louder than strategy. Remember, you're not manifesting luck, you're embodying alignment. The moment you stop chasing everything, the right things start keeping up. As we close, let's talk about where you're headed. You're stepping into a chapter where intuition and intellect finally shake hands, where courage whispers instead of shouts, and where laughter becomes its own form of prayer. This is the quiet apex of your growth, the space between knowing and becoming. The year of triumph 2025 doesn't crown heroes, it reveals them. You don't win because you fought harder, you win because you stopped fighting what was already meant for you. The universe is not a battlefield, it's a mirror that keeps asking, are you ready to see yourself clearly yet? So step forward, arrow steady, heart unarmored, humor intact. Let the world be wild, but let your response be wiser. Trust that the detours are divine, the pauses productive, and the laughter medicinal. The great cosmic joke is that all your searching was never about finding meaning, it was about becoming it. Every misstep was choreography. Every loss was direction. Every delay was the universe saying, not yet, you're still marinating. And now, finally, you're seasoned enough to handle the feast. Your story doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be honest. There's no applause worth more than the sound of your own integrity. Don't perform enlightenment, practice it. Be kind when no one's watching. Be curious when no one's explaining. Be resilient when no one's applauding. Those small, unseen acts of grace are the real magic of this sign, the invisible heroism that turns a restless traveler into a quiet teacher. The ultimate Sagittarius journey isn't external, it's internal, the pilgrimage from performance to presence. And if the road still feels too long, remember the first rule of cosmic survival: laugh. Laugh at your ambition, your mistakes, your melodramas, your desperate need for meaning. The moment you can laugh sincerely at your own seriousness, enlightenment takes one step closer. Humor is your compass, it points you back to the truth that life is ridiculous and sacred at the same time. So, dear Sagittarius, take this as your cue. Go out there and live like a philosopher who occasionally forgets the punchline but always finds the meaning. Let your adventures be bold, your lessons gentle, and your victories well-timed. The universe has already RSVP'd to your next act, it's just waiting for you to start. If this reflection stirred something in you, if you saw your own reflection in these words, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, talk about it, pass the spark forward. Like, share, and subscribe to Zodiac Talks Tarot, a community where wit meets wisdom, where astrology grows up without losing its soul, and where you, Sagittarius, always have a seat at the cosmic table. Your next chapter has already begun, let's write it together.